Amy, you worked creating promos for X Factor in Australia. You worked for Criminal Minds, Downton Abbey, How to Get Away with Murder. You were an AFI directing grad. You were part of the Viacom Viewfinders program. You won Blue Cat screenplay competition. And I may have this wrong, but you have at least 2 shows on Netflix that you've done extensive work for. That's right, correct or
Yes.
more?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Um, you were hired to write Crazy Rich Asians 2, which is amazing.
Yes.
You just wrote and directed Slanted, which is now in
Yes.
post-production. Um, how did it all start for you? Like, what was your aha moment when you were like, I want to do this? And was
Mm.
it writing or directing first?
It was directing, I'd say. I I like to say I was 14 years old and I watched Fight Club for the first time.
Yes, great movie.
Yeah, and at the time I just started working at Blockbuster Video as one of my first jobs as a teenager. So it was kind of that, perfect
Nice.
like Quentin Tarantino kind of world where I just started watching so many movies. And I remember watching Fight Club, and spoiler alert, the ending really got me,
Oh
and
my God.
just
Yeah.
it just really changed the way I thought about movies and the experience, and really kind of was so powerful that it made me want to make other people feel what I felt after watching
Yeah.
that movie. So I would say that was probably the time. And then in high school, I started making little videos with my friends, and like my dad bought this shitty little handy cam. And I just started making, stupid like alien movies and that kind of stuff with my friends. And I really, they're so bad. And I just really wanted to get into it. It just looked so incredible, like movies in general, just how it made me feel, and how huge stories could be. Yeah, and then I went to university for film production and psychology.
And psychology.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow, that's a great combination for
yeah.
writing, for acting. I've known other actors that have done quite a bit in psychology as well. I mean, that's ultimately what we're trying to recreate. So
Yes, exactly. So
I think that's
helpful.
a great move.
Yes.
Um, what a lot of times people have routines, right? When they
Yeah.
got to get up in the morning, they do this, they do that, when they have nine
Mm-hmm.
to fives and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when a lot of creatives, the reason they do creative things is because they don't want to hold down a 9 to 5, but then they suffer from
Mm-hmm.
a lack of routine. Um,
Yes.
do you have any sort of like ritual or routine that you
Yeah.
follow for your writing or
Yeah.
directing, or how do you go about it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I actually think my life changed after my directing teacher told us you need to treat even being a creative person as a 9 to 5. And it's
Mm,
kind of weird to comprehend, but I feel like, because to your point, Keith, of like most people, see this job as like, yeah, when I feel creative, I'm gonna like hunker down and create something really awesome. But then
right.
6 months out of the year, I'm just carefree and I'm doing whatever. And,
Yeah.
like,
Right.
um, and I feel like for me, that was kind of my life leading up to AFI, and even I'd say my first year at AFI. And then after I realized, oh, yes, this is like any other job, with
Right.
screenwriting, it's like you can't be a doctor, you can't be a brain surgeon and go from a university student to a famous brain surgeon who operates
Yeah.
on the most important people, whatever. Um,
Right.
I kind of understood that, okay, screenwriting is the same thing, directing is the same thing. You have to work at it every single day. I'm
Right.
sure acting is the same thing.
Yeah.
I put in every single day. I put in 8 hours sometimes not full 8 hours of work, but I wake up, I normally work out. After I work out, I start my day around 9 to 9:30, and then I'll normally work until 6:30.
Nice. And is
Yeah.
that straight writing?
I mean, it's a combination, I think.
Combination contract
Uh,
reviews and figuring out
yeah,
deals.
meetings. Yeah, yeah. Well, as a screenwriter, because most of my life right now is either writing a movie, or if I'm in a TV room, then I physically have to go into a room for 7, 8 hours a day. So that's
Mhm.
kind of different when I'm in a TV room.
Right.
But when I'm working on my own, I'll sometimes have a meeting during the day, or like I like to kind of I like to keep a whole day free sometimes, and then group all the meetings on maybe 2 days out of the week.
Mhm.
Just because when you get into a rhythm, at least for me, when I'm writing something and really into it, it's really difficult for me to come out and have to perform and be like, hello, I'm now in a meeting with an executive producer from Fox or whatever.
Right.
And have to turn that brain on versus me just kind of deep in whatever story I'm writing.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I don't know about you, but I get very, I mean, I write mostly very dark stories, and it can be very emotionally
Yeah.
draining.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I try to keep it Monday to Friday as well. I like to keep my weekends free. um but also, I know when I was starting out, I was working, not full time, but like solid 8 hours a day, maybe 3 or 4 days a week.
Mhm.
And during those times, that was when I first graduated AFI. I did that for about a year, and
Mhm.
I would wake up extra early, write from like 6 a.m. to 10.
That's great.
I got my writing in, and then I would go be an editor or whatever
Yeah.
the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, there's that old saying, like, I've heard, you study law, yeah, you go be a lawyer. You study
Mhm.
medicine, you go be a doctor. You study the arts, you go be a waiter. It's like
Yeah. That's great.
right,
That's
there's
so
a
true.
disconnect. And when it really hit me when I moved out to LA, right?
Yeah.
I lived out there for about 5 years, and when I moved out there, that's when it really hit me that it's show business, and business is the bigger word. It was one of the hardest times early on for you, like that.
Um, God, I mean, I think definitely before I got repped before. So I started writing a feature film in my second year at AFI. And as I was writing that, like my short film was doing pretty well in festivals, but I wasn't really repped yet. I was still working, that full-time job. And I remember emailing a speaker who came to AFI, who was a really successful screenwriter who had graduated AFI, like I think 10 years before
Nice.
me. And I emailed him, was like, how do you know you have what it takes to be successful? How do you know you have enough
Mm,
talent, that if you keep going, you're going to go somewhere?
mm,
And he said, you don't. But he said that it's all about hard work. And he said he separated people into two different kind of spheres. So the top sphere of like the people like the Spielbergs and Darren Aronofsky and the Coen brothers. Those are
mm.
like the 0.001% of like the
Right,
greats, right?
right.
And nobody knows if you'll end up becoming one of the greats, of one of the people who, film students end up studying your movies. You don't know that. You never will.
Mhm.
But he said the second tier of people are the people who are making fantastic money, are living their dreams, and are working screenwriters and working directors. And he said for those people, the difference between the people who don't make it and who do is just hard work.
Mm,
And I
mhm.
was like, wow, that's so
Yeah,
inspiring. And it made
yeah,
me, and it made me think about, even now I can say with great confidence that the 2 or 3 people from my year who graduated the same year as me, who are still currently working as successful screenwriters or directors, they by far worked the hardest when I was at AFI and afterwards.
Mm.
And one screenwriter in particular, I remember him texting me like on Christmas Day, and he was still working, and he's by far the most successful, way more successful than I am. And it just started to make sense, and it also felt nice that it was something that I could control,
Mm.
and I think that's what's really beautiful about writing is,
Right.
we don't need to wait for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so that gave me a lot of confidence to be like, okay, if I can just hunker down and treat this like a job. And there still are days when I do not want to write, where I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what the next scene is going to be, or I write something and
Yeah.
it's terrible.
Yeah.
But that's just part of the process, and you have
Yeah.
to push through it. And the
Yeah.
people who start the day and they go, I don't feel like writing, so I'm not going to write, and I'm going to go out and have a coffee, or like, go watch a movie. Oh, movie still, not the movie thing. The movie thing I feel like is still research, but
Yeah.
do something else, or not do anything to do with
Yeah.
our industry.
Yeah.
Then we're just running laps around those people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's kind of my mentality, and always how I've approached this job and this
Yeah.
industry. I don't know if,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
you feel
ultimately
the
you're
same way.
self-employed, and I think
Yes.
that's one of the things that I was trying to get across, to folks who are coming, especially actors, right? Because actors have it
Yeah.
in the sense of you know, ultimately, I hate to put it this way, but me being one, but ultimately, actors
Mhm.
are parasites on other people's visions, and if they happen to fit, great, and if not, better luck next time. Great job,
Yeah.
but hey, don't wear green next time, right? Or
Yeah, totally.
whatever it is, right? So that's actually I realized as part of that process of I want a little more control
Mhm.
over that. So and I started writing just from the simple fact, hey, maybe I could write myself something to be in. If that didn't work out,
Yeah,
then at least I have something here that I can turn around and try to sell, right? If
totally,
if it
totally.
doesn't work out. So um
Yeah.
uh yeah, so I mean it's the understanding that you are an entrepreneur and you have to keep your pipeline full, and you have to understand the business, and you have to it's also a relational business, right? And
Absolutely.
a lot of
Yes.
times actors can be, oddly enough, very introverted and kind of shy, and they
Mm.
don't you know feel like, at least for me anyway, I always kind of felt like, you know "Hey, how you doing? I'm an
Yeah.
actor, right?" Right?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah, and yeah, totally,
It's
totally,
like, "Hey, give me
totally.
a
It's like, you
call
gotta
for your
put this
next
on.
project," right? It just felt so fake and icky, right?
Yeah,
And I was like
totally, totally.
and
Yes, yes.
so, I mean, for the longest time, I just started saying, "What do you do?" Because there's always, especially, in the arts, when you say, I'm an actor, I'm a writer, I'm a this or I'm a that, people are like,
Mhm.
"Oh, so what have I seen you in?"
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Nobody, that
Always.
doesn't happen in banking, right? So what's the biggest deal
Yeah.
you've ever closed? What's the
Yeah,
biggest
yeah.
mortgage you've ever sold, right?
That's so true. That's so true.
Right?
Yeah.
Um, has there been one relationship? It sounds like AFI was a big launch pad, but has there been any particular relationship that kind of turned the table for you, and had an enormous
Oh,
impact on your life?
I mean, I would say, my first manager, who
Mm,
very sadly, she, ended up, leaving the industry during the pandemic
mm,
because she just felt like, you know,
Yeah.
She left to become a therapist. It was really one of the reasons why she was so great as a manager.
Right.
But she was just somebody who, you know, knew me when I was, you know, I don't like to say nobody, but I had not
Right.
started working or earning any money yet.
Yeah.
Um, and she really paved the way. And I finished that script that I told you about that I was writing in the second year at AFI.
Hmm.
And she, sent that around. And that piece of writing was really what kind of opened a lot of doors for me. It
Wow.
was because of her belief and
That's cool.
her working through this project with me. And
Mm,
yeah, her name's Cassie. She's great. Yeah.
that's awesome. If you had any a chance to do a do-over on any part of your journey, what would it
Hmm.
be?
I don't think I would because I feel like everything that's happened, good and bad, have um changed me as a person and helped me
Mm,
grow and learn.
mm-hmm.
And something that I often tell myself that I think as you progress more and more in this industry, I think the fear of failure grows as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you have more to lose and people
Right.
are like really looking at you now and they're like, oh, one false step and maybe you're not the person I thought you were going to be or
Right.
whatever. And I think about that. And that's something I've really consciously tried to remind myself is like, it's okay to fail, whatever, however big, however, I've definitely failed many times, you know,
Yeah.
in drafts, in scripts I've done, in meetings, pitches, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you learn from it and you grow from it. So,
Yeah.
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 So I would say nothing.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it is true. Things do build on each other, but the part of the thing as when I'm talking about entrepreneur and being self-employed and that kind of stuff for
Mhm.
artists, it's you know, it is understanding that um it is understanding the business piece of it, right? Because things do
Yeah.
build on each other. Even if I'm starting a widget company or an app or whatever it is, right? There's
Yeah.
still a process of development that you got to go through. Then there's a sales process, and then there's a funding process, and all these different things. Um, and yeah, so what is your approach to stressful situations, like be it
Mm.
a tense contract negotiation or do you have any one particular stressful experience that sticks out to you that
Ooh.
you were really glad it was over?
I mean, there were some tough days on our set.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Not when you were there. You were
Right.
always great. um, but yeah, there was one day in particular. I think it was after after we shot all the ethno stuff.
Mm.
Um, that was really tough. But I mean, if we're talking about contracts, like, is that something specific that like I mean, I can talk about that too,
Well,
and
you can talk
how,
about contracts if you like. I'm just thinking about,
yeah,
like, for instance, I paid a large hefty amount of stupid tax on shifting
right.
gears. I had it
Oh,
set up.
right.
I had it set up. We were running.
Mm,
I was getting paid to develop and set the project up,
mm,
and we had a set date to start. We had
mm.
we were at the start of pre-production. The director was landing in town. We were
Yeah.
renting production space and starting to crew up and cast, and the first payroll bounced, right? and
Wow.
and ultimately we had to shut the production down. um
Oh, wow.
and for a number of reasons, there was obviously some oversight that I gave up that I thought I was okay with doing, but it ultimately was not, because person that I was working with was like, hey, you handle the show, I'll handle the business. And I'm like, boom,
Mm.
music to my ears,
Mm.
right? Um, but ultimately, when you think about, hey, could I have a do over on that? Ultimately,
Mhm.
well, even if we had somehow forced it through production, right? It came
Mhm.
back around. Gosh, when was that? 3 years later, to we actually got it into production
Mhm.
and made the film. But the advancement in technology during that time, with drones and with cameras and with everything else during that
Mhm.
3 year period, even if we had gotten it into production, it would not have been as good a movie.
Mm.
Um, and so, yeah, so if there's any sort of stupid tax or, things that went sideways that taught you a big lesson.
I mean, I'm a very I don't know. I feel like um I don't like to wait for people. I don't like to wait for things.
Yeah.
And so when things have gotten like with screenwriting contracts during negotiations, if there have been issues where the money I'm asking for is not what the studio is willing to pay me, then my rep, that's their job to negotiate and to call around and, get me what I'd like. But
Mhm.
I'm also somebody who will reach out to the director, or I'll reach out to the producers personally and tell them this is why I'm asking for this amount,
Mm,
and,
that's good.
and talk to them directly. I don't know if that's something that all screenwriters do. I think most just kind of leave it to their reps
Mm,
to deal with it.
mhm.
But I think I don't like to just sit around and kind of wait,
Yeah.
for people. That's something. And then uh yeah, like the what was the initial question? The question was about, was there a particularly difficult thing that I had to overcome, right?
Mhm,
Like a And I feel like, in pre-production for Slanted, that was really tough for me.
mhm.
Um, there were budget issues and, other things, and, it wasn't anybody's fault, but, it definitely became difficult to concentrate on, my task at hand,
Right.
and be a director, when
Mhm.
there were so many other things that were up in the air.
Yeah.
Um, So I
Now,
think
did you also produce on that as well?
I'm a producer on it, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one of the hardest things
Yeah.
to, because, I was like, my my ultimate dream would to, be able to pull up, a Mel Gibson or Clint Eastwood and, write and direct and star in something, right? But then I
Totally.
go, uh, with the directing and producing, at least acting and directing are on the same side of the brain,
Mhm, mhm.
right? When
Yeah.
you act and direct, or act and produce, or direct and produce, right? You're,
Yeah.
suddenly pulled out of your creative to go, yeah, get crafty here by 1:30, right?
Right, right.
Or
Exactly.
lunch or whatever it is.
Exactly, exactly. It's so yeah, absolutely, so
Yeah.
enting, and, um, I think I don't know, I think the lesson I always I don't know, learn is to just to really believe in what you deserve, believe in your vision if you're directing something, or even writing or acting, and fight for that. And I think there are always going to be times when you have to back off, or when somebody else is right, and
Yeah.
but I think if it's something that you really believe in, nobody's going to care more than you,
Hmm.
whether or not it's your contract or it's your movie or whatever it is.
Right.
And to believe in it, and yeah, and fight for it. I think that's
That's great.
a big thing.
That's
Yeah.
great. Because it's true. I
Well,
mean, we all want to do, the best that we can do, but this is one of the, one of filmmaking in particular, is, one of those art forms that you know, I can't just go get some paint and a canvas or some charcoal and a piece of
yeah.
paper and like make a movie, right?
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Do you have on-set relationship tips? Like, as
Oh,
far as how to navigate. One of the things I always tell people I work with, if I'm producing something is, you know,
mm,
as we go into it, please and thank you goes a long way.
yes.
Right. Right.
Absolutely.
Always,
Absolutely.
always come to
Yes.
it with something like that.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Firstly, can I just say, Keith, for you, every single department head said you were their favorite.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. Yeah. Like, so whatever you're preaching is working
Oh, wow.
because it's, yeah, hands down. I mean, I think you said it. I think be, open, be polite, be
Yeah.
respectful. Um,
Yeah.
like I yeah, I've heard of directors who don't even know like the heads of departments' names by the end
Mm,
of the shoot, which is
mhm.
wild to me.
Yeah.
And that's really important to me. It's like knowing everybody's names, not just seeing them as like, oh, you're the, second AC or you're just a gaffer. It's like everybody is there
Right.
trying to make this random script that I wrote,
Right.
come to life.
Right.
And yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. I mean, like this was my first movie, and I hope I never lose that excitement. And for you
Yeah.
either, like
Yeah.
I hope by our 10th movie or 20th movie,
Yeah.
still exciting to come to set and see these
Absolutely.
people bring your vision to life and see all those trucks and
That's
everything, and
awesome.
everybody
Yes.
is there, to
Yeah.
help you, and that's
Yeah.
so exciting and something that people dream about of
Yeah.
their entire
One
life.
last one last question here.
Yes.
Get your thoughts on this. The free spending drunken sailor, streaming bubble has burst,
Yes.
so to speak, right? So what
Yes, definitely.
trends or developments are you seeing in the industry, and how are they creating opportunities right now? They're going to impact us. The impact is, you know, everybody's pulling the purse strings and everybody's doing,
Yeah.
scrambling. Oh, I don't know how to do blah. Well, like what's happening now? But how is it?
Yeah.
What opportunities do you see it creating?
I mean, I feel like absolutely right. In that most of my writer friends, director friends are out of work right now. And I would say,
Mm,
compared to before the pandemic, I'd say about 50, 60% of shows are still being made,
mm,
compared to 4 or 5 years ago,
mhm.
which is, really upsetting. But at the same time, I'm hopeful that will mean high quality TV shows, high quality movies. And and this is for me as well, I always believe that if you truly have created something wonderful and you've given yourself and your time into
Yeah.
writing something or creating something truly, truly wonderful, it will pierce through whatever gates, have been placed in
Mm,
front of you, and it will be seen. And if you've written something really great, it will be bought and it will be made.
that's awesome.
So I truly believe that. I think just because the industry is slowing down doesn't mean that you should change what you're writing to be something different. I don't believe in trends. I don't really believe in
Mm,
um, people saying, "Oh, now only horror movies are being made," or only, comedies are making money. Because you look at I mean, when Squid Game came out, nobody was like, "Hey, we're looking for a South Korean, extremely dark, effed up
right.
TV
Right.
show that's gonna break records." Like if you make something tremendous and it pierces through, that's what matters.
Right.
When Get Out came out, nobody was looking for that type of movie. It came and it blew people away, you know?
Yeah.
So I just think find what you're good at, find what you're passionate about, because nobody else can do that better than you. And just do that and do it to your best. And I believe then something great will happen.
That's awesome. Well, Amy, thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us in the middle of your busy schedule. I sure appreciate it.
Of course. It was so good to see you.
It's good to see you. Thanks.